James Nathaniel Brown, who is more popularly known as Jim Brown, was not only a remarkable and legendary NFL player, he was an outstanding civil rights activist too. However, due to his crimes, he tarnished his reputation and popularity. Brown was born to Swinton Brown, a professional boxer, and his wife, Theresa, in St. Simons Island, Georgia. His struggles began when he was a child, as his father abandoned the family when he was just 2 weeks old. If this wasn't traumatizing enough, his mother soon departed from his life as well, taking a job as a maid in Manhasset, New York, and leaving the care of her young son in the hands of Brown's great-grandmother. Brown was 8 years old when he finally went to New York to live with his mother. This is when he finally started thriving. He attended Manhasset Secondary School and excelled at playing football, lacrosse, baseball, and basketball. His college life was filled with hardships because of racial discrimination. He attended Syracuse University and was the only African-American player on the football team as a freshman in 1953. He endured racist taunts while he was at Syracuse. He was treated differently from his teammates. He was housed in a non-athlete dormitory, warned against dating Caucasian women, and the coaching staff attempted to put him at other positions, including punter, lineman, and wide receiver. As a sophomore at Syracuse, Brown was the second leading rusher on the team. As a junior, he rushed for 676 yards, 5.2 per carry. In his senior year in 1956, Brown was a consensus first-team All-American. He finished 5th in the Heisman Trophy voting and set school records for the highest season rush average and most rushing touchdowns in a single game. He ran for 986 yards, third most in the country despite Syracuse playing only 8 games, and scored 14 touchdowns. In the regular season finale, a 61-7 rout of Colgate, he rushed for 197 yards, scored 6 touchdowns, and kicked 7 extra points for a school record, 43 points. Then, in the Cotton Bowl, he rushed for 132 yards, scored 3 touchdowns, and kicked 3 extra points. But a blocked extra point after Syracuse's third touchdown was the difference as TCU won 28-27. In addition to his football accomplishments, he excelled in basketball, track, and especially lacrosse. As a sophomore, he was the second leading scorer for the basketball team and earned a letter on the track team. In 1955, he finished in 5th place in the national championship decathlon. His junior year, he averaged 11.3 points in basketball and was named a second-team All-American in lacrosse. His senior year, he was named a first-team All-American in lacrosse. He is in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame. The JMA Wireless Dome has an 800-square-foot tapestry depicting Brown in football and lacrosse uniforms with the words, "Greatest Player Ever." While in college, Brown participated in the Reserve Officers Training Corps. After graduating, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant. During his time in the NFL, Brown continued his military commitment as a member of the United States Army Reserve. He served for 4 years and was discharged with the rank of captain. Then began the journey of an extraordinary career. Brown was taken in the first round of the 1957 NFL Draft by the Cleveland Browns. In the 9th game of his rookie season, against the Los Angeles Rams, he rushed for 237 yards, setting an NFL single-game record that stood unsurpassed for 14 years, and a rookie record that remained for 40 years. Brown broke the single-season rushing record in 1958, gaining 1,527 yards in the 12-game season, shattering the previous NFL mark of 1,146 yards set by Steve Van Buren in 1949, as well as most rushing yards per game in a season, with 127.3. In this MVP season, Brown led all players with a staggering 17 touchdowns scored, beating his nearest rival, Baltimore Colts wide receiver Raymond Berry. After 9 years in the NFL, he departed as the league's record holder for both single-season and career rushing, as well as the all-time leader in rushing touchdowns, total touchdowns, and all-purpose yards. He was the first player to reach the 100 rushing touchdowns milestone, and only a few others have done so since. Brown holds the record for total seasons leading the NFL in all-purpose yards, and is the only rusher in NFL history to average over 100 yards per game for a career. In addition to his rushing, Brown was a superb receiver out of the backfield, catching 262 passes for 2,499 yards and 20 touchdowns, while also adding another 628 yards returning kickoffs. In every season he played, Brown was voted into the Pro Bowl, and he left the league in style by scoring 3 touchdowns in his final Pro Bowl game. Brown's 1,863 rushing yards in the 1963 season remains a Cleveland franchise record. It is currently the oldest franchise record for rushing yards out of all 32 NFL teams. His average of 133 yards per game that season is exceeded only by O.J. Simpson's 1973 season. Brown led the league in rushing a record 8 times. He was also the first NFL player to rush for over 10,000 yards. He was very difficult to tackle, often requiring more than one defender to bring him down. Brown was famous for his stiff arm and combined speed, power, and relentless endurance as a rusher. After winning his 3rd league MVP award in 1965, Brown retired in July 1966 at age 30 while still in top form. He was in England for the shooting of the movie The Dirty Dozen. He had expected to return to the Browns afterwards, but retired when team owner Art Model threatened him with fines for missing training camp. Brown's memorable professional career led to his induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1971. His football accomplishments at Syracuse garnered him a berth in the College Football Hall of Fame in 1995. ESPN ranked Brown 4th among their 50 greatest athletes of the 20th century. The Sporting News selected him as the greatest football player of all time. His popularity at the time was at peak, and he appeared in many movies in order to help expand the range of roles available to black actors. Brown began his acting career before the 1964 season, playing a Buffalo soldier in a Western action film called Rio Conchos. MGM cast Brown in his first lead role in The Split, based on a Parker novel by Donald E. Westlake. He was paid $125,000 for the role. Brown followed it with Riot, a prison film for MGM. Both it and The Split were solid hits at the box office. In addition to his NFL career, his work as a civil rights activist was also very exceptional. Brown was one of the few athletes to speak out on racial issues in the 1950s as the civil rights movement was growing. He was one of the most prominent African-American athletes to engage in civil rights activism, and he called on other African-American athletes to become involved in similar initiatives off the field. In 1967, Brown, alongside Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Carl Stokes, were all members of the Cleveland Summit, a meeting with Muhammad Ali held with the intention of convincing the four to rally behind and recruit others to help Ali's cause of civil rights in the United States. The Cleveland Summit was later called a significant turning point for the role of the athlete in society and one of the most important civil rights acts in sports history. In 1966, Brown founded the Negro Industrial Economic Union, later known as the Black Economic Union, to help promote economic opportunities for minority-owned businesses. The BEU secured loans and grants to support community initiatives related to food, medicines, and farm and economic ventures. Moreover, in 1988, Brown founded the Amr I Can Foundation, an organization that sought to divert gang members and prisoners from violence by teaching them life skills. Perceiving Brown and other outspoken African-American athletes as a threat, the Federal Bureau of Investigation monitored Brown and his organizations. Files declassified in 2003 showed that the FBI, the United States Secret Service, and several police departments had monitored Brown and the Black Economic Union, attempting to smear the group as a source of communist and radical Muslim extremism, and collecting information to damage Brown's reputation. This was his good and ideal side. Moving on to his criminal side, Brown was arrested at least 7 times for assault, mainly against women. In 1965, Brown was arrested in his hotel room for assault and battery against 18-year-old Brenda Ayers. He was later acquitted of those charges. A year later, he fought paternity allegations that he fathered her child. In 1968, Brown was charged with assault, with intent to commit murder, after model Ava Bonchin was found beneath the balcony of Brown's second-floor apartment. The charges were later dismissed after Bonchin refused to cooperate with the prosecutor's office. Brown was also ordered to pay a $300 fine for striking a deputy sheriff involved in the investigation during the incident. In Brown's autobiography, he stated that Bone Chin was angry and jealous over an affair he had been having with Gloria Steinem, and this argument is what led to the misunderstanding with the police. In 1975, Brown was convicted of misdemeanor battery for beating and choking his golfing partner, Frank Snow. He was sentenced to 1 day in jail, 2 years probation, and a fine of $500. In 1985, Brown was charged with raping a 33-year-old woman. The charges were later dismissed. In 1986, he was arrested for assaulting his fiancée, Deborah Clark. According to several victims and witnesses, who were interviewed for the 2022 documentary series Secrets of Playboy, Brown brutally raped and assaulted numerous women at the Playboy Mansion. These alleged incidents occurred from the late 1970s into the 1990s. In 1999, Brown was arrested and charged with making terroristic threats toward his wife, Monique. Later that year, he was found guilty of vandalism for smashing her car with a shovel. He was sentenced to 3 years probation, 1 year of domestic violence counseling, and 400 hours of community service, or 40 hours on a work crew, along with a $1,800 fine. Brown ignored the terms of his sentence, and in 2000 was sentenced to 6 months in jail, which he began serving in 2002 after refusing the court-ordered counseling and community service. Brown died of natural causes at the age of 87 on May 18, 2023, at his home in Los Angeles. He died with his wife by his side. His career was undeniably one of the greatest the NFL has ever seen. However, observing his life, one can learn that no one is flawless and pure. We all have our flaws, but it is vital that we learn from them and improve ourselves. For more inspirational videos, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you soon.